Hello and welcome to Branding for Success, where we discuss all things brand strategy, marketing, and design. I'm Rick Callahan, the founder and CEO of Creative.
And I'm Julia LaCursi, the brand strategist at Creative. Whether you're well-versed in branding or just getting started, we've got the roadmap for your brand success.
Happy New Year! Happy New Year, Julia.
Happy New Year.
So it's a new year, and this is when we like to tell our clients to maybe do a deep dive, reflect a little, look a little bit inward. Not just themselves, but at their brand, of course.
Themselves too. We can do a little self-reflection.
I think we all do, yeah. Since it's a new year, I thought it'd be a good time to help people figure out how they can assess their brands and maybe look at the year ahead or the years ahead and think about the strategy and their positioning in the market space.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, the way you kind of start reevaluating where your brand is at is really just asking yourselves the important questions. So do you know who your target markets are? Do you feel like you've been effectively reaching them? Are you, using the right communication channels? And yeah, like you said, do you know where your brand is positioned in the marketplace? So today we're going to kind of take you through all the things you kind of need to know to be able to evaluate your brand positioning, figure it out if you don't already know what it is.
And so I like to think that this episode is going to be called New Brand Who Dis? But Julia's got a much better working title for this.
Leveraging your brand positioning to dominate your market.
So what the heck does that mean?
Really simply put, brand positioning is what value are you bringing to your target market and why should they care? Why are you different and why should they care that you're different? So I feel like a big common misperception is that people feel like they either need to reinvent the wheel completely and be coming to the market with this extremely, out of the box, completely new thing to be able to stand out as a brand, but that's really not the case. Brand positioning is all about figuring out where you are compared to your competitors. So are you more affordable? Are you more luxurious? Do you have a better design? Do you have better customer service? Whatever it might be, how you're comparing, what is that differentiator? What is that value? And then being able to, connect with your target markets on that value, be able to effectively communicate it so that in the end, your brand is all about your target market's perception of you. It's not about completely revolutionizing the industry.
So you don't have to be a disruptive, innovative company to be positioned.
Not necessarily.
Uniquely.
That's great.
Nice.
You can be a Tesla or an Apple. You can totally stand out like that, but it doesn't always have to be the case. I think it's really just about understanding your value, understanding your target markets.
If there's an example we can talk about, I know you and I were talking about this earlier, you have commodities, right? You have different types of products that could be sold, and every different competitor sells the same type of thing. So a real life example would be Old Navy, Gap, and Banana Republic.
Right.
Same parent company. They all sell pants and shirts and clothes. But they're so different, right? But they're not. So tell me about that. What does that mean? Is that brand positioning that we're talking about?
Yeah, essentially. So when you think Old Navy, you think more affordability. When you think Banana Republic, you think, more, you were saying it before.
They started off like a safari vibe, and now they're a little bit more trendier, modern.
Vibe, right, yes.
Really, back in the day.
Yeah, more city, kind of urban.
Yeah, they've urbanized their adventures.
And so they didn't reinvent clothing either, and they're not, to your point, they're pretty much selling the exact same things. But if you think about where they kind of fall in this matrix of, who they're trying to appeal to based on price, based on design, whatever it is, those are the factors that determine where they're positioned in the market.
So if you can imagine 4 quadrants, right? You have your x-axis and your y-axis. Yeah. The one that's going across, the horizontal one, let's say that's your price, right? You have more affordable on one end and you have more expensive luxury on the other, perhaps. And then the line that's going up and down might be the style or aesthetic choices they make. So one might be very casual, one might be very high-end and modern. So where you position in that market space would be your brand's position against those perceived competitors, whether they're your own brands or not. So what's cool about this is that you, as somebody who's a representative or an agent of your brand, you get to make those decisions of how you want your brand to be positioned in that market space against those perceived competitors. And what really is important there, I believe, is going to be who's perceiving it. It's not about how you perceive it, it's about how your target audience perceives it. So what are some thoughts about target audiences and trying to align with them? How does that work with brand positioning?
Yeah, I mean, the first step is really getting a deep understanding of who those target markets actually are. So by, understanding, to your point, just take affordability versus, more luxury or more high end. That's one factor that you're looking at with target markets. Where do they fall as far as income level or what they're willing to spend on, an article of clothing, something like that. That's just one factor that might be involved in, better defining and identifying who your target market is. And so, when we work with clients, we develop target market personas. So that way we're really able to kind of define like a background, a story, demographics, psychographics, behaviors, all those factors that help us understand who the brand is trying to reach so that we can help build a brand that resonates and is perceived in a certain way by those target markets. And so, when we talk about examples like Gap, Old Navy, Banana Republic, it's important to note that, while it's clear how they're positioned differently, it doesn't really end there. Like then it's all about, okay, so look at the differences in Gap's ads versus Old Navy's ads, or how they're actually communicating to their audiences. What are their messaging? What does their design look like? All of that is very intentional, and all of it is based on figuring out and understanding that brand positioning to start. So when we're talking about, these design choices, we're then very much getting into, a whole other area of branding using, strategy and kind of what you know about your brand's target markets, your positioning, and then translating that into other areas like design. So one thing we always talk about and we always like to reiterate is that when it comes to the visual identity of your brand, it always ties back to your target markets. It's not just, about what colors you like or, what kind of imagery you like. So talk a bit about that. How can we use what we know about target markets to inform design?
When we're dealing with somebody who's been with a brand a very long time, or it's a brand new startup and they haven't really done this branding stuff before, a lot of times people will just base things on their gut feeling or their personal preferences for things like color or font or style in general. And that's not great. The idea here is, as Julie is talking about, is you want to make sure that your brand identity is designed in such a way that it appeals to and speaks the same language visually as the audiences you serve. It really almost doesn't matter what you like personally. I mean, that could be nice and there's overlap, of course, but it's way more important to align with the audiences you're trying to serve so that your visual identity from, like I said, the colors, the typography, the wording, the language, all of this, it comes across as sincere and authentic and of value to those that you're trying to appeal to.
It's also a matter of brand alignment. If you go through all this work to determine how your brand is positioned in the marketplace, and you determine, for example, okay, we're really, luxurious, we're a higher end product, but then you're designing your brand in a way that doesn't reflect luxury or, prestige in any way, then there's that disconnect that one thing is going to appeal to your target market, so maybe the product does, but then they look at your logo or your website and that's the part that's kind of not resonating because there's something that's disconnecting there. So that's why all the elements of branding, intertwine and all connect, and they're all very intentional.
And another example of how this might be done wrong is, even if it's not your personal preference, we've seen folks they'll chase trends. They'll chase what they think is popular or what people want or like because it's going mainstream. People like this a lot. You got to hit the timing right. That's cool to be trendy, but you want to be trendy almost accidentally. You don't want to chase the trends. You want to be something that is not a moment in time reflection, right? That trend is going to die at some point. Your brand is going to reflect that moment in time that's died off. You want to make sure that your brand is sincerely representing the culture of that organization, product, whatever it is, and it comes across in an authentic manner to the audiences you're trying to serve, so they vibe with it and go, hey, this brand really gets it. They're really coming from a place that I understand to be accurate, true, valuable, whatever it is. So don't go chasing trends. Trends are cool, but they're not necessarily going to actually dictate the next 20 years of your brand.
Yeah. All right, so taking a step back then, what kind of advice or insight would you give to, somebody who's trying to better identify their target markets? If they're sitting there right now reevaluating their brand for 2024 and they're saying, but Rick, how the hell do I know
Great question.
how to find my target, figure out who my target markets
How
are?
the heck do you figure out your target markets, or you're at least aligned with the right ones? So if you're already in business and you're reassessing your positioning in the market space, talk to the customers you like working with, or the clients or patients or whatever you want to call them. Talk to them, and also talk to the people that they refer to you, and ask them, why are you referring people to me, or why are you referred to me? What is it about me that you are finding valuable, or makes you want to come to me and my brand? Whatever the heck they tell you is market research. That market research is absolutely critical to making sure that you're basing your assessments on where you're going to take the brand and how you're going to position it, and make sure it's based on something in reality and not just your own, gut check or preference or trend chasing.
And that's the most important thing, because like I said earlier, I think there's a lot of misconception with what branding actually is. A lot of times people just kind of think branding is like the looks,
It's
the
a
logo,
shiny package.
the package, exactly. But really at its core, branding is the perception of your audience. That's what it is, plain and simple. So, there might be bumps along the road. You might need to evolve your brand. You might need to, refine some things as you figure out how to better resonate and connect with that audience. But that's who it's about at the end of the day. It's their perception. So taking things like feedback and, doing that research to help inform your decision making, I mean, that's how you kind of set yourself up for success.
Yeah. And let's say you do go through the process of tweaking your brand positioning a bit for this coming year or next year, whenever it is. How do you know it's working? That's a very important thing, right? How do you know if this is in alignment now? You do the same thing as you did before you did the changes. You talk to your market. You talk to those that you serve. You see what it is that they are getting out of your branding, your positioning, how you talk about yourself, how you advertise, how you come across on social media, any of that stuff, and just get their feedback. And if it seems like the perception they have at that point is authentically in agreement with what you're trying to go for, you did it. Yay, good job, right? If they're saying things that are way off base, maybe you missed the mark somewhere and you should reassess again. But that's okay, because as long as you're getting closer towards what your intended audiences want to see or need to see to know that you have the value that they're looking for, you're doing a good job then.
All in all, the most important thing to consider at the end of the day is, what do you want your audience to remember you for? By understanding that, it's what's going to lay the foundation for your brand positioning strategy. And then from there, it's all about maintaining that positioning, through consistency in messaging and visuals and whatever it might be, so that you can maintain that position in the market.
And what's important to remember about being consistent is that this isn't just a marketing job. This is an everybody job. From CEO, C-suite down to frontline workers and behind the scenes workers, everybody should know about this brand positioning, so that however they do their job and engage with whoever they engage with as far as your target audience is, they should believe it, they should be acting it, and they should be showing it, right? So they're sharing the values of that organization and that perceived value in such a way that people go, this resonates with how they are portraying themselves. This feels real. This is accurate,
Yeah.
You don't want to say something in your advertising and then have really bad experiences after.
All about consistency, both internally and externally. Yeah. So, yeah, Happy New Year then.
Happy New Year.
Hopefully this helps kind of get you thinking about how to be reevaluating your brand in 2024. And yeah.
I'll see you guys next time. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and leave a review. Also, make sure to share this with any friends and colleagues that you think might be helpful as well.
And if there are any other topics you want us to talk about or questions you have, definitely let us know by sending us a message on social media, and follow us too.
And definitely make sure you hit the website, creative.com. Tons of resources out there. Until next time, have a good one.